Hello, this video is to give you an idea of how to create a template for Impress. So I just opened up PowerPoint and I'm going into a blank presentation. I'm going to delete the slide that it automatically generates. And I'm going to go to the Impress tab. Once you're in the Impress tab, you'll see the ribbon there. And off to the left corner, you'll see Create Template, Load Template, Save Template. So what we're going to do here, this video is about creating templates. So it will automatically create a template slide with all the different objects that Impress needs to generate a presentation for you. So I'm going to make all the settings here that I'm going to want to save with the template and change those. These are all pretty good the way I want them to look. And I'm going to just adjust this. First, I'll go to the Home tab, adjust the title text to be centered, and I'm going to select all these other text boxes, and I'm just going to fit them in the screen just with a little bit of margin. And I'm going to change the font to Arial and take the bold off. All right. So this looks pretty good so far as the text goes. For me, the way I want it to go, with the text, I'm going to go to Design and Format Background. This Format Background is very helpful for me because it's contextually sensitive and it allows me to change all the objects that I am working on. So I'm going to go to the text and add a little bit of a shadow to just bring that back, that text away from the background a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to select the header box. Now, sometimes it can be difficult to select a certain object, especially when you have two objects layered here. So I'm going to go back to the home screen and open up the selection pane. That way I can be certain that I have selected what I'm going to be changing. So I'm going to go back into the shape options and fill, and we're going to make sure that the header box is selected. And then, so for instance, if I wanted to change the color of this header box, I would do it here. I'm not going to use orange or blue or anything like that. I'm going to use a gradient, and I'm going to change it to a dark blue. But before I do that, I'm going to go back to Design, and I'm just going to change the background using one of these automated layouts. So this is kind of a cool background, but I don't really want the pink header, so I'm going to change that over here. We'll make that a dark blue, and this also a dark blue, darker blue. And that looks pretty good the way it is. However, it's the text is dark and the background is dark, so that's not going to look very good. So what I'm going to do is change the text color to white. All right, and that looks pretty good to me. Now, one of the other things that we want to change is going into animations. And we can set the animation for each one of these lines, and as well as the title. We'll just add an animation, and looking in this background, I'm just thinking maybe random bars would be a good one to go with for this this text. And then the effect options. So if I go into the animation pane, I'm going to change them all to on click, and if I right click on effect options, this little dialog box comes up, and I want to animate this by the letter, and maybe change the delay of the letter so it appears a little bit faster because you're doing it by letter. All right, So that's good for the animation so far as those lines go, except the very top line. I usually like to start with previous because you're already clicking once to load up the next slide. So otherwise the user, whoever is presenting, needs to click twice every time, and we'll make it a little easier for them. And then the title text. Usually I don't change this, but you can add whatever kind of animation you want to it. And then that would probably just go start with previous and go to the very top of the animation so it happens first, because this works as a timeline. All right. So if I want to just quick test out my animation, I can just test it out right here. That looks good. Okay. All right. And then now the last thing I want to do is go to transition. And here again, we have the transition. Sometimes you don't necessarily want a transition applied to a template, but you can do it right here. And if we change the transition like that, we can do it. And then we go to save the template. It's always good to test your template. And the templates really should be tested for the transfer of background. So I'm going to call this dark blue purple background. And that will be my template. And then to test your template, you want to just go in and load your template up. And since the free version only has this transfer option available, that's the very first thing you're going to want to test is the regular transfer. So if we go ahead and click transfer and select our Word document to import, let's take a look and see how it looks. Take a minute for it to do the transfer. All right, it's done. Now we'll take a look. We'll run it and see what it looks like. This is where introduction goes. Yep, I know all that. And we'll let it finish its animation, move on to the next slide. It automatically goes just like we told it. All right, very good. And that's how you make and test an ImPPres template.